Week 1 is in the books. Therefore, we've got actual results to discuss concerning Big Ten football. Some teams looked really good, other teams marginal. There's more to find out, and then other teams are off to a slow start. But all in all, just about everyone won in the Big Ten, and more big matchups, including for Iowa and Illinois this weekend, and Michigan in particular. This is the Big Ten Live Show. We come your way each and every Tuesday at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, right here on the Big Network. And we, of course, just came off the Hawkeyes live show with Corey and myself, Levi Stevenson, talking Iowa State. So check out that live stream. Corey right next to me. Corey, your thoughts about week 1 in the Big Ten?
Well, I'll say this. Let me throw it back to you just for a second, then I'll kind of run through some of the results. Give me your top 3 wins for the conference this weekend.
Well, obviously, beating the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State notches the first win there. Nebraska was the other team off the top of my head that defeated a power conference team. I don't think there was another win there. So even though it was ugly, didn't look great, maybe Cincinnati went for the gold there at the end. Otherwise, I thought the Bearcats might push it in for the game-winning touchdown, but Brendan Sorsby throws the interception. Malcolm Hartzog with a great interception in the end zone to spare Nebraska the embarrassment of sending 80,000 people home in Nebraska red with a loss. But Nebraska gets that second win. Number 3, who looked most impressive? I'm going to say off the top of my head that I really liked the former 5-star quarterback at Maryland, Malik Washington. So they're really excited about him. He put up a great performance. He unexpectedly won the job, and they gave him the football, and he threw it all over the yard for like 300 yards plus. And they beat FAU 39-7, I believe was the final.
I tell you, you're not going to agree with this, but I could easily argue that Oregon impressed me more than Nebraska did. I mean, I know there's some bias there because you know how highly I think of Montana State. They were favored to pick. They were favored to win the Big Sky, and that's probably the second best conference in the FCS behind the Missouri Valley. That's a really good program. And we talked about Montana State on the docket. I thought it was a dangerous game for Oregon in the sense that if you look at how Oregon came out of the gates last year against Idaho State, that could easily be a scary first half that, you know, gives a opposing team life. And I wouldn't be surprised if they use that as motivation, as that 2024 first half against Idaho State, who, by the way, Idaho State nearly beat Wazoo on Saturday. Needed a game-winning field goal from none other than Jack Stevens, younger brother of Iowa kicker Drew Stevens, to beat Idaho State. So Idaho State's been pushing some power. Well, they're not Power 4, I guess, anymore, but some high major FBS teams. So I was really impressed. I mean, 59-7, 59-7. That's quite the or 59-13. Excuse me. That's quite the dominance from the Ducks. And you know, Dante Moore, they obviously controlled every aspect of the game. Moore was efficient, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, Ohio State getting the win. The game you could call ugly in some regards. It was a low-scoring, grinded-out type of game. People didn't expect that, especially with Arch Manning involved. And I know this isn't a Big 12 or a SEC show, but that's been a talking point this week nationally. Penn State dominated Nevada. Don't know what to think of Nevada. But as far as like the best, you were talking about tiers of opposition. Texas would obviously be there. Cincinnati out of the Big 12. And then you probably throw in, Tulane, but obviously they won. They beat Northwestern. You'd have to throw in Colorado State and Nevada. And Penn State, Washington handled those Mountain West teams quite handily. And so overall, good week for the conference. I was not impressed with some of those early performances. Rutgers struggled against Ohio, and you and I had both tabbed that game as a dangerous one because Ohio, hey, they beat Iowa State a couple of years ago out there. I don't know why Iowa State agreed to play them in Ohio, but they did, and they lost. And hey, Montana State's a good example of a dangerous game. Missouri State, again, a team from a good FCS league, and USC just waxed them, put up 73. To see Tulane not just beat Northwestern, but dominate the way they did, that doesn't feel like that does not feel like the Northwestern program that we have seen since Pat Fitzgerald, stepped down or was whatever happened there. Which, by the way, I don't think we've talked about Pat Fitzgerald's lawsuit being settled. That's interesting. So the question is, where does he end up? But yeah, just kind of a mixed bag there. And then, Indiana wasn't real impressive on paper against Old Dominion. I didn't watch that game. Mendoza was okay. But and then, Michigan won by 17 over New Mexico. You had the Michigan State win over Western Michigan. Western Illinois, they're a horrible FCS program right now. They got destroyed by Illinois. Miami, Ohio went to Madison, held the Badgers to 17, but couldn't score. So 17-0, really boring game early in the week. And then Minnesota. But, you talked about this on your show midweek. Minnesota typically struggles against MAC teams. Just these early September games, they tend to kind of struggle in. So all in all, good performances all in all. I mean, good record for the conference. I think the Big Ten needed Nebraska to win that game, even though I was secretly in my heart of hearts kind of rooting for Cincinnati to
You're
win.
an Iowa fan.
I'm an Iowa fan, and normally I wouldn't do that against a team in my own, the Big Ten. But I will say, I'll give kudos to myself. I've been wrong about a lot of things so far. I think my picks against the spread were atrocious week 1, but I've been wrong a lot. I was not wrong about that game in Kansas City. That was the first possession of the game. You have Quint Kessenich in the crowd talking about how this has turned into just a sea of Nebraska fans. And I'm like, I've been talking about this all off season about how that was going to happen. And we call it a Cincinnati game, or Cincinnati home game. So, yeah, I mean, week 2, you could argue, is a weaker slate nationally than week 1, but there are,
it's not even close.
But the Big Ten matchups, there are a few more intriguing matchups for me. I know that Oklahoma State's probably not very good, but at least Oregon has to play a team out of the Big 12. I'm curious to see what Miami, Ohio does against Rutgers, because Rutgers struggled against Ohio, and Miami defensively was pretty good against Wisconsin. Michigan, Oklahoma, of course. Boston College, Michigan State. UNLV, UCLA. UCLA did not play the way I expected them to play against the Utes. I think I may have had UCLA winning that game, not just covering, but winning. And they got dispatched quite easily. So that surprised me. That was one of the more surprising results.
Yeah, I would kind of categorize it in different buckets. One would be teams that did what was expected of them. Maybe they played inferior opponents, but they went out and waxed them, like a USC, like an Illinois. Obviously, Ohio State, different category. They played one of the best teams in the country, we would expect. We shall see. And they got the job done. They played very conservatively, really protected. Ryan Day was very obvious with his comments after the game, said, we protected our quarterback. We didn't want to ask him to do too much. They relied on what could be one of the best defenses in the country to win that game. Another storyline for me is Bryce Underwood, quarterback at Michigan. It'll be interesting to see if he can parlay what was an impressive opening performance against New Mexico. Even though Michigan was less than impressive, they were supposed to go out there and win that game by 5 touchdowns. And it was a fairly competitive game, 27-17 at one point in the fourth quarter. But Bryce Underwood looked really good. I watched all of his pass attempts because I was, of course, on Michigan podcast recording today. So I had to go back and at least watch all of his pass attempts. And he graded out extremely well. To your point, I looked at those 3 Big Ten MAC matchups, and I immediately went, I'll take all the MAC teams plus the points. And that's how it played out. Now, Minnesota especially, I give a little bit more credit to their performance against Buffalo. They pulled away in the fourth quarter. They were physically dominant, even though the scoreboard didn't show it. They could have punched in a last touchdown to make it 30-10, but it was a hard-fought win. The Wisconsin one just as well, but the big story there is Danny O'Neal had to play the game once Billy Edwards was knocked out. I don't know his prognosis for this week. I don't think it's very good. They're going to Alabama. Talk about big non-conference games, and we didn't even mention, and I didn't even think of it either. That's how much Wisconsin has gone off the radar to a certain extent. And then you had the disappointments of, as you mentioned, I thought UCLA was going to give Utah a good game. And I also was disappointed. Yes, Northwestern was just a 4-point underdog at Tulane. and they were not competitive. I'd like to go back and watch at least the extended highlights of the Northwestern game just to see what happened there.
Got to wonder if Northwestern regrets anything with the whole Pat Fitzgerald situation now that that lawsuit has been resolved. And, I don't want to read into one game. I think, you know what? This is what's crazy. One of the more intriguing matchups week 2 is the first matchup of the week. Western Illinois, Northwestern. Because this will give us a good read on how bad Northwestern. No, I'm serious. This will give us a good read on how bad Northwestern is. If they go and struggle against Western Illinois, who has perennially been at the basement of the Missouri Valley, basically since Coach Patterson left, that will give us an indication of how bad Northwestern. They scored 3 points against Tulane. So, and Tulane was down Brendan Sullivan. Sullivan didn't play in the game, I don't believe, because of injury. So, BYU transfer. Northern Illinois, Maryland is another interesting week 2 game. Northern Illinois is typically a pretty good MAC team. I think they were picked at least top third of the conference, definitely top half of the MAC, and it's a Friday night game. So there's a couple interesting Friday ones.
So week 1 nationally was the week. You had Ohio State, Texas, Clemson, LSU, Notre Dame, Miami, and other games. But week 2 in the Big Ten, week 2 nationally looks sparse. But you're selling me on the Big Ten because we've got Cy-Hawk. That I believe to be the most important game in the conference this week. You could argue Michigan, Oklahoma, obviously, they're blue bloods. We'll see what happens there. I really am leaning Michigan hard in that game. But we talked about it all off season, looking forward to seeing Illinois go to Duke. For them to prove that they're truly the contender that we expect them to be.
And Duke
now Wisconsin maybe has some kind of fighting shot at Alabama.
Well, they don't play Alabama this week.
Oh, that's week 3. My bad. That is week 3. Yes. But there was one other big national. Oregon.
Well, Boston College, Michigan State. That's
like
another
that
one.
matchup,
I think the Big Ten has an opportunity this week. There's more Power 4 matchups. So they have an opportunity this week to get solid wins. There's not any conference resume building wins, maybe Iowa State, but it's not going to be perceived the way Ohio State, Texas will be at the end of the year. So opportunity. If Iowa can go beat Iowa State on the road, if Illinois can go beat Duke, although Duke struggled mightily against Elon in the first half last week. They were trailing at one point, middle of that game, then pulled away in the second half. But that's a game. If you're Illinois, if you're a top 15 team, they ought to go to Duke and take care of business based on what we saw from Duke early. They paid a lot of money for that quarterback down there, so they ought to represent themselves better as well. But yeah, those 2 games, and then like we said, Oklahoma State, Oregon. If you're Oregon, you should dominate Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat Tennessee Martin last week, 27-7. Boston College going to East Lansing. Again, that's a game. Boston College played an FCS team last week. But I don't even know. Do you know the early line on that one? BC and MSU? I guess I could look it up here.
I don't. I know that you're going to see it later tonight when I send you your 12-pack. I need to add up the numbers for Corey and myself, Steve Dace and Matt Zemek.
Please don't.
I am off to a nice little start, Corey, by the way, at 15-6 against the spread.
I don't want to know what my record against the spread was last week. It got off to an okay start. I got the Nebraska-Cincinnati game right, and I think I got – what was the one before that? I think I got one other one right, but I got to do better this week. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a game. Michigan State ought to take care of business, and UCLA, man, they're playing a UNLV team that's played in week 0. That's an Idaho State team that I mentioned last hour, or maybe it was this hour. Almost beat Wazoo. So, and then they beat Sam Houston last week. Been a solid bowl team, at least in years. So, I don't know. The way UCLA showed itself against Utah last week, they may go to Vegas and lose.
Dan Mullen can coach. He's an odd sort, but he can coach. He can scheme offense, that's for sure. Doreen, thank you so much for reposting these streams. We appreciate it. All right, Corey, I know you need to go.
Yeah, real quick, just put a plug in. Best game of the week in the conference, I think, hands down. I know Michigan fans may disagree, but Iowa State in Ames, just because of the rivalry, everything that it means. It's a big game nationally. It's a big game for Iowa State's chances at the playoff, but it's also an opportunity for the conference to get a really solid win. We'll have post-game coverage after the game. My channel from the Hawkeye of the Storm, we simulcast over at Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football with Coach Patterson. And we had a ton of people show up week one. Sure, we'll have a ton of people this week. We hope we're talking about a Big Ten win. I hope all the Hawkeye fans and conference Big Ten fans as a whole can unite because it's an opportunity. The conference, these are a few weeks that mean a lot to the conference perception-wise. So some of these games that may seem like middle-of-the-pack games like BC and Michigan State and even Oklahoma, Michigan, those are games that the Big Ten needs to win and should win. I'm looking at the lineup here. The early line for Iowa State, it moved in Iowa State's favor after Saturday, but not by much. 3.5. Illinois' 2.5-point favorites on the road. Oregon's 28.5-point favorites against Oklahoma State. Rutgers is a 16.5-point favorite against Miami. Please include that on our picks. please include that one on our picks, Mark.
What is the Michigan-Oklahoma line?
OU by 5.5.
Wow.
And
I'll take those points.
Boston College, Michigan State favored by 3.5. UCLA's favorite, just 2.5-point favorites at UNLV.
I was hoping that Illinois was going to be a bigger favorite at Duke, and I was still going to expect them to win, but I was going to take those points with Duke. But 2.5? Wow.
So what about what's your early prediction on Iowa? I know you don't want to spoil it, but Iowa State 3.5-point favorites.
I'm going to struggle with the line, but right now I will probably take Iowa State to win the game.
Okay. Those are hard lines, aren't they? Aren't those 2.5, 3.5-point lines difficult? I don't know.
But I like Michigan with 5.5 points.
Yeah, I would think so. Especially, it sounds like you were really impressed with Bryce Saturday. So I can't wait to get that 12-pack. Get it over to my email, Mark.
I will do it tonight.
All right.
Thanks, Corey.
Looks like you got Mr. Jackson Johnson and one other in the queue. So
we do.
I'll let you sail off into the sunset.
Come on. Okay. All right. Thanks, Corey.
Mark. Appreciate it.
See ya. The great Corey Bratta, once again, from the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa football talk nonstop over there. All right. We will take your calls here at the Voice for College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Doreen, again, thank you for reposting the stream. Keep in mind that I'm not going to go crazy tonight in regards to this particular show, like staying on forever, because we're back at 10 p.m. Eastern time for the national show. Caden's jumping in here to talk some college football with us. Caden, how are you?
Disappointed, Mark.
Caden is disappointed. All right.
You know what? That Ohio State game was a disappointment, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Now, this is just particular of me, but I felt that it just disappointed me.
Okay, I understand that. I'm guessing offensively you were disappointed.
No, not offensively. Defensively, I'm disappointed. Defensively.
Giving up 7 points.
No. We should have went into that game, and we should have beat the brakes off of Texas early. But no, I get Ryan Day wants to play conservative, but come on. We have a very talented defense that could have come out there and beat the brakes off of Texas. I had them favored to win 42-17, 42-12. Like, that was my score prediction, okay? I'm not gonna lie about it, but I was thinking Ohio State's defense would beat the brakes off of them, and we won.
They only gave up 7 points.
Still, I would have liked to see a 4-touchdown, at least a 3-touchdown shutout.
Okay.
Come on, man.
All right, Caden.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I sound like an idiot saying that, but you know what? That's just my.
I'm not going to call you that. I'm going to say that you have every right to believe and feel however you want. I'm just trying to bring you back to these games are difficult to win, and they were playing one of the most talented teams in the country that was ranked at number 1. They won the game.
Ranked number 1 by Joe Klatt, in my opinion. Putting Texas number 1 and then the defending national champions at number 3. I was like, how dare you put the defending national champions at number 3? and you put the team that we just beat in the Cotton Bowl to go to play Oregon at number 1.
They're different teams.
It still doesn't make sense to me, Mark. It still doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if it's just being a Buckeye fan or I'm just crazy.
Well, I understand your logic. I understand your logic, but everyone, I believe, is assessing these teams going into the season based on who they are supposed to be coming up. Not obviously, you have to try to eliminate what they were last year to a certain extent.
Well, and I will say this for week 2. I will say this. I'm not really going to be watching any much games in the next couple of weeks because I'm like, yeah, I mean, honestly, the games just don't have that same feeling. Like I watch college, OSU football. I used to watch OSU football every week. But it's like nowadays I really don't watch OSU football very much. And I'm talking Ohio State football specifically. But, that's just me probably being working too much a day, or I'm just crazy. I don't know. Somebody can tell me otherwise. I probably need sleep, but
Well, right now would be a good time to go get a nap. Okay,
well,
you do that.
I already had a Mountain Dew, so I'm fine. It's just,
All right, Caden, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, Mark, I'll let Jackson get on.
Night.
You too.
All right, let's keep it rolling. We got Jackson Johnson stopping by. Jackson, what's going on?
It's going pretty good. It's always hard not to get a good laugh from Caden the Diesel Freak. It's just so funny.
Caden is not satisfied. He wanted 49-17. That was his big prediction. So
he was like calling in on the Bama call-in show about barbecuing that Longhorns, talking about that Longhorn dinner. It was just so funny. I enjoy it though. It's just so funny when he calls.
They won the game. That should be good enough.
There you go. A win's a win. But yeah, I talked with Matt Zemek midnight on Friday, late Thursday night. I kept thinking about like if Luke Fickell is gone from Wisconsin after this season, he could head back to Cincinnati. If Cincinnati decides they're not satisfied with Scott Satterfield and the way they're going, and they could go, you know what, we're going to go with Jim Leonhard. We screwed up the first time. We're not going to screw up again. And I'm thinking about like Maryland, where they're at as of right now. And this is a little too early, but I'm kind of keeping an eye on that whole situation with Mike Locksley and how long they want to keep him for the rest of this season.
Well, I'm not at this point in the season into speculation about next steps for head coaches, especially since they've only played one game. But obviously we came into this season, most of us thinking that Luke Fickell was the most vulnerable out there. And I made that statement a few weeks ago about Jim Leonhard took over a 3-2 football team from Paul Chryst in 2021, correct? Is that the season, 21?
Yep.
2022. Yeah, 2022. Took over a 3-2 football team when they fired Chryst, and he finished 9-4. And I know that it was my viewpoint that with the Big Ten expanding, with the 4 new teams coming in, Wisconsin feeling as though they were in a vulnerable position, that they were kind of slipping. They were no longer near the top of the Big Ten, and especially with Oregon and USC coming, Washington, that they wouldn't be able to maintain, and they had to go for a sexy hire. They had to get out there and get somebody that they really believe could take the program to another level. So they took a shot at Luke Fickell instead of saying, okay, we got a really good thing here with Jim Leonhard, and they're paying the price for it right now.
Yeah, because it's just kind of like, it looked flashy, but it's not working out so well. But we'll wait and see how it turns out, because there's plenty of football to remain. Because that's why the title's called Week 1 Overreaction, because some people are just overreacting. Oh, by the way, congratulations to Sonny Verma on his new gig at On3. Give a congratulations, a round of applause, man.
Absolutely.
And he's just rocking and rolling. He's one of the hardest workers I know. know of, man. Like it's like he's just like boom. He's like this show, that show. He's on Bears on Tap, Locked on Illini, and Illini Cast. And sometimes he's on here, and I'm like, wow, I'm not sure how he does it. It's like, wow.
Sonny's a great guy, and I think he's going to enjoy this football season. And yeah, he covers Illinois football all over the place. And once again, he's got a new show with On3, folks, and you can catch him on Illini Cast and Locked On as well. Anything else, Jackson, concerning the Big Ten?
Yeah, I was going to say a couple weeks from now is the 5-year anniversary of Hawkeyes Live with Mark Rogers and Corey Braddock on Iowa at the Voice of College Football. Going to get things rocking and rolling throughout the rest of the Big Ten. And, you know, Alabama Voice of College Football is, of course, 105 subs away from that magic number, 3,000. Love to get there before my birthday. But, of course, also check out the Michigan Podcast, episode 309, where Mark Rogers joins Steve Dace once again. All right there on the Michigan Podcast. Stay tuned for more. And let's get the Voice of College Football to 1,000 subs, ladies and gentlemen. 100,000, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's do that. We've been gaining some here recently, so we appreciate everyone who is a new subscriber here at the Voice of College Football. And we've got a betting tier that you can latch onto both here on the main channel or on Patreon.com. We got a few subscribers there, and my picks are off to a good start against the spread. So you may want to check out my picks. You get Steve Merrill's Under the Radar selection. You also get 12-pack each week from Steve Dace, Corey Bratta, and Matt Zemek. And I deliver about 20 or 25 picks each week.
And the Amazon promos where you'll find Mark's doppelganger. Kind of looks like Mark.
That's it.
There you go.
That's it. All right. Bama, Wisconsin in a couple weeks. Anything else with the Big Ten that is on your mind?
That's about it. I'm just waiting it out for Iowa State at 11 a.m. and probably going to talk with Corey for a bit after that game's done over with.
Well, Jackson, we appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks as always, Mark. Stay safe, stay cool, stay away from that heat. It's hot out.
Jackson, by the way, if you didn't know it, he's the guy that keeps this place running at the Voice of College Football. So Jackson's all over the place in terms of setting up shows. He is one of our main hosts on the Alabama channel and did a remarkable job this offseason, in particular with our audio. So the audio from these shows you can find on your favorite audio platform. So you can do that with all the shows, all the team channels, but specifically our little show here on the main channel. You can find that on your favorite audio platform. So if you don't want to look at me, you can just listen and do that on your favorite audio platform, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and all the other ones there. All right. Jackson also has a big hand in our social media as well. All right. I'm going to run through the chat. The link is there if you want to grab the link and give me a call. Otherwise, I will be back at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And to run through here, Troy V, does the winner of the Iowa State game get a trophy or some door prize like free corn for the year? Well, I would think that free corn would be the last thing that those people would need. I think they've got corn all over the place. Wherever they turn, there is corn. Rowan's here. Jam OSU is here. Barbara, good to see you, as well as Lisa. Doreen again. And anyone else with anything of consequence here? Yes, Ohio State is elevated to number 1, according to both the Voice of College Football and that horrendous AP poll, which leads me to the top 25 that actually makes sense. Let me call that baby up. If you were not aware, expect to be stunned by the rankings from yours truly, because they are not based on preseason hype or expectations or anticipation of the schedule and how it's going to play out, simply based on the performance on the field. Therefore, you are going to see certain teams in the top 25 after 1 week that you did not expect to see, and you are going to see other teams omitted from the top 25. So check it out. Give it a look. The top 25 that actually makes sense. Right there. For some reason, StreamYard has changed something here, and it takes like 4 more clicks to get something to share. Siraj Manoli. Nobody in the national level cares about Iowa football. They do about the Huskers. All right. I would ask that you would call the show and explain your point, because that explains nothing. There is nothing to verify or confirm what you just stated there. Absolutely nothing. Landon says Iowa 27-21. Mark has a big game and throws a late TD to Gill for the win. We're going by first names for the Iowa football team. That's Gradowski to Jacob Gill for the win. Iowa 27-21, according to Landon. Lisa rooting for Oklahoma. Of course, they're taking on Michigan. I was surprised by this point spread as well, Gerard, with Illinois just a 2.5-point favorite at Duke, because I was expecting North, and I was hoping for North of a touchdown, because I was going to swoop in and grab Duke in those points, because I do think that that's going to be a heck of a ball game. Mike likes Iowa State in this one over the Hawkeyes, 18-7. Merch! Yes! Karen got herself some merch. I hope she loves it. I am telling everyone, please buy the merch. Pick out something you like, and I want you to let me know, because it needs to be up to the Voice of College Football standard. So please let me know, because we want to make sure that we are doing right by all of you. There it is. So that is the main merch for the Voice of College Football brand. We've got a few selections of hats. We've got polos. We've got T-shirts. And with the teams, we also have, we've got some tumblers, and we've got some, let's see, let's go to, Colorado. See the hats. And there are the T-shirts. And there we go with the mugs and the tumblers and the Voice of College Football can coolers. So vocfb.com, vocfb.com. Do what Karen did and pick out an item for yourself. Treat yourself to some Voice of College Football merch. And again, we've got about 20 to 25 teams covered. So you can rep your team and rep the Voice of College Football at the same time. And we appreciate everyone who has already purchased some gear for themselves. And again, let me know either way, if you love it or if there's some kind of issue with it, which we don't in any way expect, because we received nothing but positive feedback, but we want to deliver quality stuff. All right, folks, no more calls coming in. So you will see me at 10 p.m. Eastern time for the late night show. Get your comments, questions, and your calls geared up for the late night show, 10 p.m. Eastern time with me. We'll see you then.